Hey, what's up, YouTube? How are you doing out there today, man? We're tapping in here to some top 10 powerful people throughout history who sold their souls to the devil. I wonder what kind of people they're going to be talking about here. I can only assume some are going to be politicians, obviously, like we got here, the leader of North Korea. Of course, I'm expecting some musicians, man. Some people have said that they sold their souls to the devil to get the skills that they had that brought them fame and usually some misery along with that. So let's go ahead and get into this one and see what's happening here, who they're talking about.
When it comes to deeply corrupt, sinister, and straight up evil people of power in this world, unfortunately at this point we've got quite the laundry list. But just how many do you think could have sold their souls to the devil? Welcome back to another video, friends. I'm your host Kennedy, and today we are counting down some of the most notorious leaders this world has ever seen. So grab your favorite devil repellent and get ready, because this is the top 10 powerful people throughout history who sold their soul to the devil. Starting us off at number 10 is Caligula. Caligula's reign began in 37 AD, and for the first 6 months he was actually regarded as a fairly moderate and noble leader. Early on, he freed citizens who'd been unjustly imprisoned and got rid of stiff sales tax, which are both things that will get a good amount of people on your side.
Good, yeah.
But somewhere around that 6-month mark, everything changed. And I mean everything. According to records, Caligula fell ill and was never the same again. Soon he became known as a tyrant, killing whomever he pleased for the fun of it, declared himself a living god, began harassing and having his way with any women he pleased, including his own sisters, whom he was also selling off to other men. Contemporaries wrote of his blatant disregard for humanity and his people, saying how he used money to fund his own personal estate rather than feed the starving. And according to one account, once at some games he was presiding, he was said to have ordered his guards to throw an entire section of the audience into the arena during the intermission to be eaten by the wild beasts because there were no prisoners to be used and he was bored. Could this—
Wow, dude. Okay, so an illness just changed this all. I wonder if that had anything to do with maybe he thought somebody was trying to poison him, that paranoia drove him over the edge into some kind of psychosis. Really makes me wonder, just a random illness just made you completely change who you were into some sadistic monster. I don't know, man. I mean, I guess it's possible, right? He was already in power, so why then would he sell himself? Well, I guess maybe to gain power, but back then it was usually blood lineage that brought you to power. So I don't know much about this gentleman, Caligula, I think it was. Secondly, man, what drives me crazy is that when usually there's somebody like this in the history, just somebody who goes crazy, tyrannical type person, that somebody in their inner circle doesn't just take them out, right? Like how many people can just stand idly by and just say, hey, I know if I hurt this person, kill them, whatever, that then I'll be assassinated, I will be killed. But usually, it seems better in some of these cases to just take them out than to let everybody else suffer for how long? Decades? I don't know, man. It's crazy.
sudden change in personality have been some sort of deal with the devil? I guess we'll never know. Coming in at number 9, Timur. Founder of the Timurid Empire in what is now a mixture of modern-day Afghanistan, Iraq, and Central Asia, Timur was an undefeated military commander who reigned from 1370 to 1405. Now, although he is regarded as one of the greatest military leaders in history, he was also incredibly brutal to his enemies. So depending on who it is you are talking to, there are a couple of different opinions on just how great of a guy he was.
Yeah,
for example, in present-day Afghanistan, he ordered the construction of a tower made out of live men, each stacked on top of one another and cemented together with bricks and mortar. Another instance of brutality was when he ordered a rebellion be punished and 70,000 heads of the rebels were built up into a minaret. So you definitely did not want to be on his bad side.
I mean, this guy is laying down the law, man, in the most brutal fashion, which that part of the world actually still does, man. They still do some terrible things, stonings, a lot of things. Let's just not go into it. But yeah, if you're curious, man, go look up the kind of punishments they're doing over there in the Middle East. Still to this day, man, they're brutal punishments going on for sure.
Side, let's just say that. However, the part that has made some people wonder if he danced with the devil to acquire all that power came when his tomb was exhumed in 1941. And allegedly, the phrase, "When I rise from the dead, the world shall tremble," was inscribed into his tomb. Additionally, inside the casket, another inscription read, "Whomever opens my tomb shall unleash an invader more terrible than I." Coming in at number
Dude, and somebody opened that tomb. A group of people had to open that tomb, but it would have been sometime, I assume, afterwards that they understood what those inscriptions even meant. But yeah, stuff like that's wicked. It's scary, man. It doesn't mean that I necessarily believe that something would be unleashed if they opened his tomb, but still, it's very eerie, and it's got to stick with you and stay on your mind, man. If you're the guy that opened it, or was part of the party that opened it and then found out what those inscriptions meant later, that would haunt me a little bit. Gotta be real.
Number 8, Countess Elizabeth Bathory.
I've heard about this
Born
girl.
in 1560 into the Bathory
Wait. Okay, let's keep it going. Maybe I haven't. Let's see.
family of Hungary, Elizabeth was a noblewoman who was a lot less noble than her title suggests. Famously nicknamed the Bloody Countess, Elizabeth, along with 4 of her servants, became a rather notorious figure after it was revealed she had been luring young virgin peasant women into her castle, promising them a job and a better life, before instead brutally harming them to their deaths.
Yeah, okay.
According to texts, her devious methods included sticking needles under their fingernails, covering girls in honey before unleashing bees on them, and biting off chunks of their flesh. But it was said no matter what, with each victim she always bathed in their blood.
Keep herself young,
and while
right?
the actual number of victims is up for debate, there are some accounts that believe the number could have been as high as 600. Now, as far as her intentions behind the killings were concerned, in some circles it was rumored she was a vampire, while others believed she was hunting down those she suspected to be witches. But some think it was some kind of deal she made with the devil to stay young and beautiful forever.
Yeah, I think she believed if she got young girls over there, murdered them, and then bathed in their blood and drank their blood, things like that, that it would keep her youthful. But dude, that's the thing about these positions of power, man. When somebody gets into it that's completely deranged, out of their mind, and some people hide it so well, just like serial killers, murderers who go out and commit all these atrocities that we don't know because they just seem like a likable guy. They were so likable, right? When that happens with people in positions of power, like, oh man, and that's what I'm saying. The good people won't usually rise up and do anything, take these people out of their positions. So they get away with it for a very long time, harming a lot of people. It's crazy.
In the end, the craziest part of the whole ordeal was that she never really had to face the music for her crimes. She simply lived out the rest of her life on house arrest, roaming freely around her castle. Coming in at number 7, Vlad the Impaler. Born in 1431, Vlad was the son of Vlad Dracul, ruler of Wallachia, and became the leader himself in 1448 after being imprisoned by the Ottoman Empire. While many saw him as a hero, his unmatched cruelty and penchant for barbaric executions, often against his own people, contributed to his reputation as one of history's most cold-blooded leaders. Vlad was known to perform disembowelment, beheading, and even skinning or boiling his victims alive. Still, his preferred method was impalement, as his nickname hints at. After one famous military victory against the Ottoman Turks, Vlad supposedly had around 20,000 men impaled on the banks of the Danube.
Jeez.
When the second wave of invaders
20,000.
arrived, they are said to have immediately retreated upon seeing the grotesque forest of corpses.
Dude.
According to some accounts, Vlad also enjoyed dining among the thousands of impaled bodies and would even dip his bread into the blood of his victim.
I'm gonna assume that was a bit of a stretch. That probably didn't happen. He dipped his bread into the blood of his victims. Maybe it did, right? But Vlad, yeah, he's wicked, man. Most people do know about Vlad because you know about Dracula, and Dracula is sometimes, for the younger generation, their introduction to Vlad. You start learning more about Vlad and find out that Dracula was based off of him, inspired by him. But I couldn't imagine that, man. 20,000 bodies impaled, like she said, creating pretty much an impalement forest, man. You're going in there just sifting through these bodies like they're trees, but they're all impaled upright. Scary, man, and enough to drive a whole nother army away amongst seeing that. Pretty cool.
Coming in at number 6, Dr. Sigmund Rascher. There were many evil scientists researching cruel experiments during World War II, and one of the worst doctors of the time was Dr. Sigmund Rascher. When he joined the army, he asked the leader if human subjects could be provided at his disposal, and by 1942, his wishes were granted. He began conducting experiments in pressure chambers where he would simulate a high altitude and then quickly alter the pressure to simulate the conditions of a pilot free falling with no oxygen. But he was most well known for his cruel freezing experiments on 300 prisoners, supposedly to figure out the best way to warm up soldiers who experienced hypothermia. To do so, he would either force his victims to remain outdoors, completely naked in freezing temperatures for up to 14 hours, or would place them in tanks of ice water for 3 hours, measuring their pulse and internal temperatures all the while. From there, he would warm up the victims, experimenting with a variety of different temperatures, including boiling water, often causing further harm. Along with his freezing experiments, Sigmund would administer polygol, a substance to aid blood clotting, and then shoot or amputate a limb on his victims to see the speed at which they would bleed out.
Dude, yeah. I know that some of the scientists and doctors in World War II, on the Nazi side, man, they were some disgusting. They were some disgusting people. They did some heinous freaking experiments, man, and it's just crazy, right? You did it almost for pure enjoyment, right? Now, obviously, they're hiding this under the guise that he was actually trying to figure out best ways to warm up his soldiers and to find out if these blood clotting drugs actually worked and how effective they were. Truth is, man, they just enjoy seeing people in pain and in a dying state, and to have the power to actually kill somebody, man, that's crazy.
I mean, it wouldn't be hard to imagine a deal with the devil in his case. Coming in at number 5, Warren Jeffs. Although now he's in prison serving a life sentence for his crimes, members of the FLDS still consider Jeffs the leader and prophet, believing he was wrongly convicted, which is insane if you know the backstory. So the FLDS, or Fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, is an extreme denomination of the Mormon Church that separates itself entirely from secular life. Their belief is that in order to get into the highest rank of heaven, you must have at least 3 wives. But realistically, the more you have, the better in their eyes. Now, there is a lot to unpack with this entire denomination. Honestly, I could write a whole video on it alone. But essentially, under Warren Jeffs' leadership, the FLDS came under fire as a hate group and a funnel for underage marriages. Yeah. Prior to his arrest, it was believed that Warren had 87 wives, many of which were...
I knew they were gonna do the underage, man. That's a big thing that I hear about a lot when it comes to this type of... Yeah, anyway, I knew they were gonna do the underage thing, man. That's crazy. So, hate group, I'd like if they can expand on that, because remember, we're talking about people who sold their souls to the devil here, and they're saying this gentleman created his own little religious group, almost cultish, as a lot of these religious groups or cults usually end up deriving from some kind of religious persuasion, right? They get you in there with something about saving your soul or meeting your maker, stuff like that. So yeah.
Believe that Warren had 87 wives, many of which were not of legal age to marry, and he was not the only one to be in a similar situation. Using the excuse that it was God's will, he routinely married off young teenage girls with very old men, and even created a temple to have his way with any girl he pleased.
Yeah, so there it is, man. Just probably a straight up pure freaking pedophile dude, and then he's also pawning off these girls with other people who are pedophiles, right? They're all doing something with underage women. And what sucks is, on top of that, right, you have the underage women, but then you have everybody just being forced into these relations, underage or not. It seems in here, he's talking about the more you have, the better off you are.
Ironically, while this was happening, he was sneaking off the commune to gamble, pay for sexual services, and romp around the secular world, living the life he preached was sinful while committing actual sins in his own community. Coming in at number 4, Jim Jones.
Jim Jones.
If you've ever heard of the term drinking the Kool-Aid, this man is why. Growing up, Jones's life was hard. His father was a disabled war vet in and out of hospital, and his mother was all-around neglectful. So Jones was pretty much left to his own devices. Looking for a family, he began to develop a community at his local church, but sadly, it turned into a much darker obsession. He began to study and idealize fascist leaders and dreamed of becoming a preacher just like them. As an adult, he worked as a minister and began claiming to have psychic and healing powers until eventually he started his own religion, the People's. Sadly, he became drunk on power, and the next thing you know, he was calling himself a prophet and began hoarding the cult members' money for his own gain. By 1977, he immigrated the commune to Guyana and called it Jonestown, but a congressman named Ryan was onto him and went to investigate allegations of human rights abuse. The congressman ended up taking members from the cult who wanted to leave, but Jones did not take kindly to this and ordered his henchmen kill Ryan and his party.
Damn, dude, yeah. So they're gonna kill, I think these are federal agents, and then, so really having everybody commit suicide through drinking of that alcohol, that Kool-Aid, was actually murder, right? It's actually, he's murdering them, is the way I see it. But all of that came about just because he didn't want to lose control of what he had out there. Like, man, that's kind of crazy, right? He took all these lives just because he was so power hungry, and they were moving in on it. They were about to shut down operations. And he could not bear the thought of losing this control over these people that he had, almost all of them, I think, drink the Kool-Aid.
Not take kindly to this and ordered his henchmen kill Ryan and his party. But after he got word that not everyone was taken out, he worried the military would come and shut down his entire operation. So he ordered all members take their own lives as an act of revolution. Tragically, all 909 members were forced to take their own life with a mix of Flavor Aid and cyanide, and those that didn't go down willingly were given an injection. Coming in at number 3, Idi Amin. Once the president of Uganda from 1971 to 1979, Idi Amin was and still is regarded as one of the most brutal despots in modern world history. Prior to his reign over the country, Amin was the commander of the Ugandan army, but as one might have guessed, he was not really following all the rules. In fact, the president at the time, Milton Obote, was actually planning to arrest Amin for misuse of army funding.
All right, I'm interested to get deeper into this one and see what's happening here. But that's another area of the world, in Africa, man. There's a lot of corrupt leaders, a lot of corrupt governments instilled in place, that are committing war crimes, taking out their political opposition, supporting terrorist groups within the country that are doing very bad things to women, children, and men, innocents, blood being spilled all the time over there.
Planning to arrest Amin for misuse of army funding. However, somehow this news made its way back to Amin, and he hatched a plan to overthrow the elected government via a military coup and declare himself the president. Unfortunately, this plan worked. Under his malicious reign, his first order of business was to expel the entirety of the Asian population, which was roughly 80,000 people, many of whom were dual citizens. This complete intolerance and persecution of any and all ethnic groups continued under his dictatorship, along with rampant human rights abuses, political repression, and extrajudicial killing. In fact, it's estimated that nearly 300,000 civilians lost their lives in the mere 8 years he ruled over the country. Finally, in 1979, the Tanzanian president ordered his troops to capture him, which they did, ousting him from his power. But rather than face his charges, Amin went into exile in Saudi Arabia, where he remained until his death.
Whoa, dude. So he got away scot-free by this Saudi Arabia just letting him chill. But Saudi Arabia is another one of them countries, man, does some real shady, nasty stuff. As far as their government goes, that's crazy. I think they're a royal family as well over there. So what happened? They were talking about expelling the Asian population, which did I get it right? 80,000 people. So were they actually forced out of the country, or were some of them, worse off than than being able to leave the country?
Coming in at number 2, King Leopold II. The King of Belgium from 1865 to 1909. In Belgium, he is often referred to as the Builder King, as he commissioned a great number of buildings, urban projects, and public works. But he also has another not so flattering title, the Butcher of Congo. You see, as was unfortunately all too common at the time, King Leopold, with the help of other colonial European nations, claimed Congo for himself and began extracting the natural resources for his own gain. Initially, he was after ivory, but soon he discovered it was ripe with rubber, and so he ordered the native population into forced labor to harvest and process it for him. Not only that, but if the quotas were not met by his slaves, he would hurt, kill, and even amputate the hands of anyone he pleased to send a message. Ironically, he never set foot in the Congo, yet he was responsible for an estimated 10 million deaths. Eventually, word got out of his atrocities after African-American politician and historian George Washington Williams visited the land and wrote an open letter describing the practices as crimes against humanity, and the outside pressure forced him to sell the land. And last,
just sell the land, right? Dude, so many of these people in history just got away with disgusting things, man. Slavery was terrible, absolutely terrible. Being in somebody else controlling your life, and your life is meaningless to them outside of the work that they can get out of you. And once they can't get that work out of you, or they feel like you're not living up to their production standards, man, they will go and do human rights abuses, cutting off their hands. There were other humiliating, disturbing things that were done to people who were being held in slavery. Just terrible to think about for the people that had to experience that and live that. But then what's really crazy to me is that these monsters, these people that do these things, like, dude, they have no remorse, they have no empathy. They don't care about another human being, that they could just dispose of you so easily.
Last up in our number 1 spot, Pol Pot. Leader of the notoriously cruel communist movement Khmer Rouge from 1975 to 1979, Pol Pot is among some of the most evil leaders in history. During his short but radical rule, the entire country was isolated from all foreign influences. This included closing schools, hospitals, factories, banks, and foreign agriculture, as they believed this would stimulate the rebirth of the country. But of course, all it did was send it into a desolate famine and poverty. The population was forcibly moved to the countryside, where they were ordered to work on collective farms, but with the economy collapsing, people in the country were starving. Still, they could not forage for food. In fact, anyone who disobeyed the orders were killed. Well, actually, anyone who was educated or spoke an opposing thought was killed. And in just 4 years, nearly 2 million Cambodians of all ages perished, which was approximately 1/4 of the population. To give you just an idea of the kind of evil this man was capable of, one of the most disgusting practices that took place during his genocidal tyranny was what happened at the Chankiri trees in the killing fields. Innocent sons and daughters whose parents had been killed for a crime against the state were taken to the trees and executed so they could not, and I quote, grow up and take revenge for their parents' deaths. He truly was an evil, evil man. Well, that's all I have for you today, friends. Thanks for tuning in to another video. Make sure to hit that subscribe button on your way out, and let me know in the comments any other evil people I missed.
See, isn't that crazy? Like, exactly what I was saying. Some of these people are put into these positions, and the people around them just won't stop the atrocities that they are forcing other people to commit in their name. It's happening in the world right now. Dude, that's just crazy. All right, so that's 10 powerful people throughout history who sold their souls to the devil, and I would say it makes sense. All of them, it makes sense, dude. Some truly evil people. Let me know if there's any other top 10s that you'd like me to get around to, or maybe some other videos in general that you'd like me to get around to. I'm looking for 10 to 20 minute videos to react to. So if you've got anything out there, let me know. If you like this video, please like it and subscribe. I'd appreciate that. It helped push this video out into the algorithm, and I want to do more content like this. So I hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you on the next one. All right, peace.